Welcome to the broadcast. I hope you're ready for a face kicking experience today because you are entering what I call the bear market society, where we help people build and gain enormous amounts of wealth in the bear market. So that way, when the bull market hits, we don't have to FOMO in and get wrecked, because the bear market is where wealth ultimately is made. And remember, nothing I put here is financial advice. So we provide educational information to help people kill it in the market without looking at shit coins, without buying random NFTs, and just without ultimately getting yourself in trouble in the market. So our goal here isn't to be cowboys. Our goal here is to be smart, intelligent, and create an investing strategy to where we can win. And ultimately, I think that's where people want to be. But people kind of fall into this short-term mindset to where it's like, okay, in order to make money, I have to buy these shit coins and I lose my money. Then I try to make that money back, or I do this and that. And the problem I think with that is when we try to make money from quick gains like shit coins and stuff like that, we ultimately end up in a position to where we lose more money than we make because we're thinking very short term. We're thinking very short sighted. And ultimately, this is putting us into a position to where we can't really be successful long term. And that's not what I want to see. Like, I see all these people on Twitter all the time, how they put all this money into these NFTs and nothing really came about it. And that's what we kind of want to avoid. So without further ado, I'm going to share this to my group. And then we are going to dive into the markets. So if you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you go to twitter.com/Chandler SAF and follow me on there. Let's take a little tour of my Twitter so you can see that it's something probably worth following. I don't know, maybe not. My picture is a goblin smoking a cigar, I think. So maybe nobody cares, but this is my little guy. It's a phantom goblin smoking his little cigar. But anyway, or a pipe, not a cigar. But anyway, follow me on Twitter because like I talk about DeFi yields and me and how DeFi is kind of a meme and how yields are a meme and how we have to get past that. I share a lot of info on what I think is happening and what rejections will possibly happen. So you're seeing my thoughts more in real time than just this once a week thing. And today's Tuesday. Obviously, it was the 4th of July, so I took the day off and had a good time. I put a lot of ideas in here of where the bottom for stocks might be. So if you're not following me on Twitter, I recommend that you do and check me out because you're going to get information in more real time and you're going to get kind of how I feel about the market and ultimately how the market is looking. So twitter.com/Chandler SAF. You can follow me right there. If you're not, make sure you do. I would appreciate if you are. And then make sure you like and subscribe to this broadcast so you can help me build the ultimate bear market society so we can learn to be smart investors, not cowboys, running around with our six shooters. This is Aubriana's. And so without further ado, let's get into the market. So what happened this week in the market? Well, let me tell you, it was a ridiculously boring market. So what happened was Bitcoin has gone nowhere. It's legitimately 0.16% up. So it's been up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's literally done nothing. I mean, Tether is more exciting than Bitcoin right now because Tether FUD is exciting to pay attention to. So right now, really, we've got Bitcoin that's boring. We've got ETH that's fairly boring. We've got alts that are fairly boring. I mean, Matic might be the only one that's doing anything right now. Things just aren't moving. It's been an up and down market. Wow, Uniswap, 9% up. That's pretty amazing. But anyway, there's just nothing to pay attention to, really. And when I look at this market, it's just sideways. And this is ultimately what it looks like deep in the bear after we've hit like the ultimate bottom. And I don't think we've hit the ultimate bottom yet, but this is what the bear market looks like. Like you sit there and you're just like biting your fingernails off because you're so bored, you fall asleep. And ultimately, it's not that you're losing money that kills you, it's that you die of boredom. I mean, you're all set. You've accumulated. You set the coins you want. You're in a great place. You're like, let's do this. I'm a cowboy now, six shooter. And then you die of boredom because the bear market kills you. So that's what this is the beginnings of how that feels, just up and down, up and down. And there are bear market rallies. And then when there's a little rally, people are like, yeah, let's go, bull market. Let's take over the world. And then it goes back down and they're like, oh, I hate my life. And so it's like up and down, depression, failure, upside down, sadness, happiness, depression, failure. And it's this thing that just goes like a roller coaster. And so that's kind of what the deep depths of the bear market feel like. And if you can come out of that, you're going to come out a lot stronger of an individual. You might come out void of all emotion. I mean, I can tell you after 2018, I lost my ability to feel about coins and my ability to care. And ultimately, that's what drove me to be better in this bull market and bear market. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you to remove emotion from the equation and teaches you to think logically about what's happening. So instead of jumping into Bitcoin when it's 69K, you think to yourself, you know what? If I just sit back in my saddle and I wait, this thing's going to be a lot lower in a few months. So maybe I'll wait. And then you do, and you buy low and then you win. If you don't, you buy high and then you lose. Then you have to wait for the next bull market to break even. And that's ultimately not where we want to be. And that's the purpose of the bear market society, to be able to make the good decisions that you need to make right now, or learn to wait. So that way you can win long-term in the market. So as always, if you're listening, drop your questions down below. I will peek on over and check them out and make sure that I am paying attention to you all if you're watching. If you are watching, give this broadcast a like. Don't you neglect that like button. Just click it. All it takes is I scroll my little screen and then I push the thing and I like it. And make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed. Scroll your little finger over there and push the subscribe button. But anyway, it's just a super boring market. Nobody cares right now. There's not really a lot going on. Alts start pumping a tiny bit. Everyone gets excited, then they die. So just over and over again. And that is legitimately where we are. So let's take a look at some watch lists that I have. Oh, I'm not even logged in. So let's take a look at DeFi. So actually, let me log into this so we can check out the watch lists and what's going on. I hope everybody had a good 4th and enjoyed themselves. My whole family was sick, so everybody was legitimately dying. We didn't do anything. That's the best. All right, so excuse my painful silence as I get logged into this thing and open up my watch list. Okay, we did it. We figured out a watch list. And actually, one of my watch lists is public. So you could subscribe to this if you want, with these other 456 people who believe in the coins that I'm looking at. So, but anyway, one thing I want to do with the bear market society, and I'm going to come out with the doc pretty soon, is I'm going to put specific private watch lists on what I'm accumulating in the bear market at every phase. So it's going to be bear market phase 1. What am I doing? Bear market phase 2. What am I doing? Bear market phase 3. What am I doing? So that way everybody kind of knows what I'm doing, but they also have to bring a case to the table of hey, what do you think about this? Here's what I think. Here's my thesis. So you learn how to think, which is the most important aspect of this game. Get out of the idea that I need to buy this right now and get into the idea of logic and understanding how to dictate when we should get in the market and when we should get out in the market. Remove the emotional attachment to hodling or diamond hands, because that's the kind of stuff that gets you wrecked. And that's the kind of stuff that puts you in a position to where you don't win. And ultimately, I want to see people win. So anyway, when we go through my watch list, there was a specific one I wanted to go through. ETH DeFi. I actually think ETH DeFi is going to be a good narrative to play. I'm actually incredibly impressed with what the pumps look like when we have these little bear market pumps. So, Convex and Curve, holy crap, they had a 56%. They're looking good. But something I've been looking at is SNX. Every time we have a little thing, SNX pumps hard and SNX goes up pretty well. So I've actually been, and SNX tends to be a profitable protocol. So ETH DeFi isn't dead. These things are pumping and doing well. Aave tends to have good moves. SNX tends to have good moves. So these aren't in horrible positions. And I thought that was incredibly interesting because people just don't pay attention to it anymore. So something to look at and pay attention to as you're kind of scrolling around and figuring out what to buy. Outside of that, I do think Polkadot ecosystem is actually in a good, obviously not right now, but in a good place, that I think Polkadot will be one of the narratives that plays really well in the next bull market. But right now, really what I'm looking at is just Bitcoin and ETH. I'm waiting. I'm going more in Bitcoin than ETH right now, but I'm just kind of playing with it, waiting for it, hitting good entries and good buy-ins. I know there's some people that say buy the right dip, but then you're which dip should I buy? I've been waiting for 36 years. Oh, we're back in a bull market. I never bought any dip. I was waiting for that dip, and then you die. So don't get into the mindset where you have to buy the right dip. What I do is I do a strategy called micro DCA, where we can just invest really small amounts when we hit certain dips, and then we incrementally increase that as we get closer and closer to the dip, or when we think the bottom is going to be. So let's take a look at DeFi. Some of the chains, DeFi total locked value, not very much. We're getting crushed because we're in a bear market. And honestly, memes are yields are memes. That you're finding out right now that a lot of the yields were propped up because protocols were essentially feeding it. And once we figure that out, we'll recognize that the next phase of DeFi will be utility. We'll be actually making the real world work with DeFi and actually having a purpose that isn't just making money, or not just that is just more than yield farming, because yield farming, it shouldn't be everything that encompasses DeFi. We've got lending, we've got opportunities. There's so many things that we can use to marry real world assets with what we're using, that I think that's the narrative that's really going to play into the next phase of DeFi. But anyway, when we look at DeFi, 7-day change, Tron's still pumping with their USDD coin, tends to do pretty well. Solana tends to hold well. ETH isn't down a ton. I'm actually impressed. Tron's number 3. It's surpassed AVAX, 5.3 billion. It's moving close to BNB. So maybe that can happen if they don't implode like UST. So everything else is just kind of like trucking along. Optimism, I've been talking about quite a bit. I think Optimism is a good play. I mean, it's got 52 protocols on, and a lot of the really good ones on Phantom that I've been paying attention to are on Optimism. I mean, Synthetics is on Optimism. They were one of the first to move over there. We've got Uni, Perpetual Protocol, Curve, Velo, and I'll do a separate video on Velo and Beats. But the fact that Velo's over there and Beethoven, I saw Taro was over there, which is another really good one I like. Beefy's finally deployed over there. I think that's going to mean a lot for this. I've heard Liquid Driver's on its way to move over. So this is something to pay attention to. And these are the early days. Like right now, I think you can get on, let's find Taro. And I know I just said memes or yields or memes, but right now you can get on Taro and you can do a decent amount on, you can do a decent amount on ETH yields, even like 6%. It's not that bad. 4% on USDC, 17% on Frax, 5% on ETH. So these aren't horrible. 2%, 24%, not Velo. Those are micro caps. Maybe not the best idea right now. But I mean, if you're holding ETH, some stuff like this isn't that bad right now. You can get semi-decent yields out of it. So anyway, the purpose of this is to move into understanding where we're at. So what does the market look like is probably what you're wondering. And if there's questions down below, just drop those. If there's not, that's okay too. But let's go into Bitcoin and get past all my squiggly lines. So what have we seen? Absolutely nothing. We've watched all the way down in the channel. We've watched all the way up in the channel. We've watched all the way down in the channel. We've watched all the way up in the channel. We've watched down, back up. We've watched it push through, come back down. So we've literally just been sideways in this pattern for a while. And if you pay attention to what's ultimately happening, we were also in a similar channel before we dumped. And we were also in a similar channel before we dumped. So 1, 2, one could surmise that we are on the path to moving into the rejection, and then boom, we come back down. So what does that look like? I think for me, when we sort of measure that pathway, we look at, well, let's just call it right here, just to do something real quick. And then let's move that to, maybe it breaks down right here. It's kind of what I've been calling. That's kind of what I've been looking for. I wouldn't be surprised to see somewhere between 13.8, this 13.6, like 13.875, between 6 and 16,172 as our like ultimate bottom, or as a really good accumulation zone. I think this is going to be the money zone right here. Maybe we only hit 16, but anywhere in this zone, I think it is just that's money, because on Bitcoin, that's 16 to 13. I think on ETH, that puts us somewhere around like 6, 5, 6, 7. So it's like the best accumulation zone ever. And all the alts are going to be in really good positions at that point. So, I mean, that's a good opportunity. And I don't think we're that far off from that. So when we do look at that, I mean, let's see, we're on the daily, July 6th, July 7th, July 8th, July 9th. We've got until, I mean, it really needs to make a decision by July 12th at the latest. I would anticipate something around July 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, probably, maybe the 9th. That's kind of the time left we have to enjoy ourselves in this channel. So for me, you can kind of, we touch, didn't quite touch. We got rejected, which means we're probably going to come back down. So it does look fairly bearish to me. When you look at this, it's like I talked a little bit ago too, it's like a running flat correction, because it's down, back up, back down, lower high, dump. And ultimately, I think that's where we're headed. Look at it. We have the high. Now we have a lower. We have this one, basically a lower high, almost like a double top here. And this is going to lead to a dump. And so that's probably the pattern we're on, which ultimately I think leads us to lower lows and to a deeper low, which ultimately is good because I think that this would likely be the bottom. This will likely be the bottom, and then we'll lead into an accumulation phase where it's like it hits here and then it goes boom, or maybe it goes boom, 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 death. And then we come back up and we kind of ride it out, and then we go sideways for 150 years and die. Maybe we sit between, maybe we move back up between 22 and 30. Maybe we move sideways for 7 months. I don't know, but I think we're moving closer to that bottom, which is this zone for me. Ultimate bottom, I think 13,875, 16,1 is a pretty good zone as well. So anywhere from this little zone right here could be an accumulation zone. That would be a money accumulation zone for us. So something to look out for and pay attention to on Bitcoin. Kind of same thing that's going to happen to ETH. We've got that same sort of pattern going. You could actually draw this up here, but we're in the same zone. So this is actually ETH's 200-week moving average, which tells me that ETH has a lot of room to go still. When we do see it, seeing ETH break out probably, like I said, puts us somewhere around like 6 to 800-ish. And when you kind of compare that to the last cycle, I think that puts us in a pretty interesting zone, because when I measured it out, right here where we're at, 1120 was like the top of the last. Then we moved down to 827, and then we moved down to 677, which I think is a pretty good zone. Like that 677 right there is like money collection zone. I'll buy like 55 ETH at that point. And if we lose that, then maybe somewhere around like 391. I don't know. I don't think we go that low, but I do think we end up somewhere around the 600 zone, like 6.7 puts us in a similar position for ETH. When we look at Bitcoin dominance, will likely, as Bitcoin plummets, the alts will plummet harder. So we'll likely see Bitcoin dominance come back up and ultimately continue to ride this and probably hit like 48, 50%, something like that. And I think that puts us in a really good zone. So we are getting there. When we look at the Bitcoin alt market, I think we're here. I think we end up here. So that's just, it's got more bleeding to do before we can move in a good direction. Looking at the overall market, let's take a look at the NASDAQ. So we're in a similar situation. It doesn't look that much different, honestly. But I do think we are getting a bit of a relief rally in the markets. We had a pretty good pump today, just like we had a good pump on the rest of the market. But I ultimately do think we end up back here. I think we have a good little relief rally, and then we have a final bounce, and then we're probably okay. When you look at the Dow Jones, we've crossed under this logarithmic zone. We're kind of trying to surpass. I think that leads to a rejection to the downside. When we look at the US oil actually kind of started to collapse today, which is an interesting deal, because previously oil kind of peaked over here at 138. It came back down, kind of, it was retesting it's whether or not it can come back up, and ultimately it failed, and now it's collapsing and plummeting. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, we had a wick off of oil at 101, put us back up to 104, but now oil is going to have a significant resistance zone somewhere around 107 to fight. So likely, I mean, unless it gets a lot of strength, it's going to hit this and come back down. So maybe we saw the bottom for oil. Maybe oil is on its way down now. When we do look at the dollar, though, this isn't good for Bitcoin typically. But when we look at the dollar, it's out of that zone again. It fell back down, pushed through, and then it's kind of gone parabolic today. It just went straight up and pushed hard towards the upside. So that's never good for Bitcoin. That's usually a sign that Bitcoin is going to go down, because it has an inverse relationship with the dollar typically. So kind of what to look out in the overall market. I don't believe that we're done with the ultimate like recession feel. I feel like we have a little relief rally going, maybe a July relief rally. I do feel like Bitcoin is going to go down in the next couple of days, and I think we've got some more downside action. We're probably, I don't know, maybe halfway there, because we go from where we're at 20 down to 13, 20 down even 16. That puts us in a pretty good accumulation zone for Bitcoin, and ultimately for me, that's probably where I'll just put my entire net worth into it. I'm just kidding. But I think that is a good zone to look out for. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Remember to follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/ChandlerSAF. My picture is a goblin with a phantom hat and a pipe he's smoking, a cold pipe. Follow me on there for updates in real time to be able to